Okay, so now that we do have this method, just for visual sake, I will minimize it. Where did I put it? Ah, here it is. So check situation of board. I will copy it, along with the parentheses, and I will put it into two places. One of them is just into start, so that once the game has started, everything is quite normal, hopefully. And then I will also put it into my end of turn stuff. Just at the very end, I believe, just to make sure, yes. And because I'm putting it into the end of turn stuff, I actually don't have to put it into my undo move, because undo move, I believe, does call end of turn stuff. Let's just make sure that it does. Or maybe it doesn't. Okay. Okay, so I do actually just want to paste this in. And state of game equals that. State of game is just a variable we made here, which is a game state variable. So it can only take one of these. Okay, so now moving on to our move. Our classes, actually no, let's move on to normal or special move. So normal or special move did receive a bit of changes by me. As I mentioned previously, we have a new boolean, which is can't take piece. This means that we will need to change a few things up. Just let me set this up. There we go. So by default, input can take piece is going to be true, because that's if the move can probably take a piece. As I said before, the moves that cannot take a piece are the pawn moving 2 pieces forward, 1 piece forward, or the castling of the rook. Of the king. So those are the 3, I guess, if you want to call to make a difference between the 2 forward and the 1 forward by the pawn. And so to apply that change into practice, what we need to do is go into our pawn and our king. So let's open those. If I can find them. So king. That's our king open, and let me find my pawns, both the black and white pawns actually. So black pawn and white pawn. I keep forgetting that I've done that. I might actually someday change it so that it's just one pawn class, but for now I will actually just keep it the way it is. So in white pawn, this is the move that makes 2 moves forward. The first argument that the constructor takes is whether it's a special move, so we will put false to that. By default it is false. And then we will put false to the second one, because, well, it cannot take a piece, that's false. En passant, that's different, it can take a piece. Let's just make sure that all of my other things are also correct. So because I actually don't have any difference to make between a normal move forward or a move to the side, I have to add that difference in now. So I'll put that just underneath this as another else if. Or is it? No, not underneath there, actually. It's underneath this one. There's another else if, which I will actually just copy and paste for the time being. And there we go. So this just checks that if it's moving just 1 forward, that it cannot take a piece. Similarly, in black pawn, I will do that as well. So first of all, I will have a comma false. Oops, there we go. And then after this else if, I will paste the following in. There we go. So checking -1 because it's moving downwards. Next, in king, there are actually a lot of changes that I made. So let's get started to work on that. First of all, because our king has actually quite a lot of things it does, what I did was split this up into a few lines. If you want to delete a tab, the best way to do it is Shift Tab or backspace 4 times, but that gets annoying after a while, as you probably can realize why. I should probably actually keep some of these lines like they were. There we go. So that's one of the things it checks, and after this we want to have a true and then a false. A false because this is the castling bit, and the castling cannot take a piece, as you probably know that. Above it, we also want to check a few other things. So this is probably quite overwhelming. After valid moves clear, we also want to clear the king can't move here, because, well, all of the pieces are going to have to clear it at some point, and that point is going to be every time we call the check valid moves, because king can't move here is going to be similar to valid moves. So then in our for each loop we have all of this checking going on. Let's again split that up as well to make it more easy to read. And well, now we have the fun part, i.e. working with king can't move here. So what I've done inside of these curly braces is the following, and this doesn't need to be here anymore. I mean, I have taken this. This does still exist. This is this if, but there are a few extra things that I've added. So the or is still there, as you can see, but then I've added an and. So this and is, does this contain, oh that's right, I need to copy the does this contain element method over to my piece class, because I am going to be using it. Shift and piece. Let's minimize that. There we go. And actually public, because otherwise it's probably not going to work. There we go. So now we don't get any errors with that. So the first thing it checks, well, okay, this is going to get slightly confusing. The following lessons are going to be kind of difficult to understand and explain, so hopefully you guys can follow along. So the first thing we do is the same we had as before. Like, that is going to make sense, hopefully. But then we also check that the opposing color cannot make a move to that square. The way I do that is by checking that if this is white, that the canvas the black moves doesn't contain this square. Or if this is black, the canvas dot white moves doesn't contain this square. And if it does, then it doesn't get added into valid moves. If it doesn't, that means that the opposing color or your opponent cannot take that piece if the king moves to there, so it is added to a valid move. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, do feel free to ask. I will give it another try. So that's the main thing for the king. Next, in our knight, so we will work with the knight and the king first, because those are the two easiest to start off with. In our knight, I have actually split this up, and it actually splits up much nicer than the king, because there are a lot more ors here, and it even lines up quite nicely, as you can notice there. Lines up slightly nicer on my other program. Oh well, that's not too big of a deal. So that's all of the normal checking we have. I don't have to explain that, hopefully. After valid moves clear, we again want to clear the king can't move here, dot clear, for the same reasons we did it on the king. Now inside of here, so the next thing that comes after this is to actually fill up the king can't move here list. To do that, we just put it in front of this and we add, actually we can't just add a square because, well, this is a normal or special moves list, not a square list, so we have to do this. Also, what I've noticed is that this isn't very efficient, so what we can do is have this in one line, because it does the same thing here and here. We can just put an OR here and paste that in and just delete everything else. There we go. And we've made that slightly shorter. And I think that that's the knight done. So actually let's go back to the king, and something I don't think I explained is why I have this separate from this. The king can't move here list is just everywhere, basically actually everywhere that the king can attack. Because if the opposing king moves onto, so let's actually do this visually. So imagine the white king is here. The black king currently has no valid moves. So if we only added a king can't move here, in the same place where valid moves happen, then the white king would be allowed to move to this place. However, if that happens, then the black king can just take the white king. So to prevent that from happening, we add this slot into the white king can't move here list, so that the white king cannot move into there. And I think that that's everything I didn't explain.